great to have you back to another Discipler group. Thank you for coming. Today we conclude our three-part series on engaging laity in ministry. You remember we've been working with Olu Brown and Michael Slaughter. They're back with us again today. Olu Brown's church is called Impact because it wants to make an impact on people's lives to make an impact in the world. And if you remember last month, Michael Slaughter said, people don't want meetings, they want meaning. That's what it's really all about. It's not coming just to meet and just to be present. It's really to help people have meaning in their lives. Today we'll hear about how these churches are organized to give people meaning, how to cut the bureaucracy and get people engaged in ministry. I want you to know that I understand that our book of discipline has lots of things in it that it requires of you and requires of churches. Our goal is always to fulfill the book of discipline, but to find ways that all the energy isn't going into bureaucracy, but the energy is going into ministry. Our guides can help you organize your church to be faithful to the discipline, but also to reduce the bureaucracy. That's what we want for you, is ministry, and that's what we want for your people. So thanks for coming. It's good to have you. I pray that God will continue to work in you and to be a powerful leader and to lead your people to ministry and meaning. God bless.
People aren't looking for meetings. They're looking for meaning. So we've got to eliminate most of the committees. We've eliminated every committee at Gainesburg Church. We have one board of 12 people. Mm-hmm. Now here's a church with a $6-point-some million budget, and we have one meeting a month, board of 12 people. 4 of those people are HR specialists, which assumes the staff parish. 4 financial, and 4 need to be intelligent about buildings,
like the trustee.
Like the trustee. Yeah. That's all that's required. Now, how can a mega church make it with one meeting a month?
With 12 people.
With 12 people.
Yeah.
And you see, what we've got to do is cut the bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. People aren't looking for meetings; they're looking for meaning. Mm-hmm. And so I have no problem getting people to serve in a capacity that is really changing the life of the hurting, the poor, the broken. Mm-hmm. But today's world, people are too busy to be on committees. Yeah. That's a huge thing we need to understand in the church.
They are, and that's what I experience in the local churches here, that they don't feel they can take on a leadership responsibility because of the time commitment. But it's really about what you value, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting is that when I get these people tutoring in a school, working in a computer lab, working in food pantries, furniture ministries. They've even come up, a lot of these people invented this stuff. We have a warehouse filled with medical equipment that they distribute to people who do not have the money or resources to, hospital beds, wheelchairs. It's amazing what they come up with when you encourage them to identify God's burning bush for their life. Mm-hmm. We all have burning bushes.
Right.
Every single person has a burning bush, and you need to identify that burning bush.
You've got to tap into that.
Yeah, we've elevated professional ministry above the unpaid servant. Mm-hmm. Hey, as pastor, that's a function in the body. It's not a higher position in the body, and we all have a function.
I'd like to thank you for coming here and sharing your time with us and your knowledge and your experience gives us a lot of food for thought for how we go forward from here and identifying and helping people tap into that burning bush in their lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, how do you identify which people would be good leaders for particular things that you have coming up?
Similar to the way a lot of our staff have come on board. Many of our staff began as volunteers, and being able to be in community with them and being able to interact with them and realizing they have certain gifts and graces that add value to who we are and where God is taking us to, and encouraging them to come on board from a staffing standpoint. It's similar for someone who leads from a lay perspective but continues to go to new levels of leadership. Being able to be in community with them, being able to share in missions with them and in worship with them, talk in small groups so that you get an opportunity to know them beyond a Sunday morning or a web worship experience, to determine what their heart is and what their passions are. And so for us, identifying leaders in the lay community is related to being in relationship with them and then identifying their passions and oftentimes their skill. What is interesting about lay leaders, and I don't mean that from the actual role of a lay leader, but lay leaders in general, I think the mistake some pastors make is that someone who in their 8 to 5 is a banker. And so they come to your church and they're there and it's great. And the mistake that we would make sometimes is say, you're a banker, so why don't you come and work in finance? But what you find with people, oftentimes their careers aren't their passions. And the worst thing you can do is to stick them in a finance area because they can't wait to leave the bank, you know, every day.
Yeah.
And when you're in community with individuals, they reveal their passion. So the banker reveals, you know, I really love to greet, you know. And then instead of that person being in finance, although they may be a whiz with numbers, that's not the best place. But the best place for them is in the area of greeting and hospitality. And then what happens is, as the individuals are able and encouraged to live out their passion, it becomes a life-changing experience for them. We have a young lady who is one of our key volunteers and now is on staff. And by profession, when we planted the church, was a school teacher. And honorable profession, great profession. But through her work and impact, and one of our other staff person who is an event planner, saw that that was part of her passion as well. And so we had a conversation 2 weeks ago, and in the Atlanta area, and I'm sure in other school systems, teachers sign their contract each year, and if you don't sign your contract, that means you're not coming back. Well, she said, I didn't sign my contract, and I've gone back to school for event planning, and I'm launching out. And so that's what happens, I believe, when lay people are in partnership in ministry, is that we rediscover or discover our God-given passion. And many times they take the next step beyond the church or that church community, and they live that passion out, which for many people is a total about face for what they've done the last 10 or 20 years.
So what else would you have to share with us about this whole process of discipleship and leadership with laity?
Well, I believe it's important to identify and be very careful of how we identify who lay leaders are in lay leadership, and make sure that as we identify individuals, we look holistically, not only at the person's skill, that's one thing, but we really dig deep and we look at what is their passion. You know, what is that unspoken passion that, if given an opportunity, would live into it and add value to the community of faith. And then we begin to equip that individual and to say, how as a faith community can we equip you, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, and provide that extra nurture and that extra care, and oftentimes training. Because one of the tendencies in the church world is that individuals sometimes feel as if I can do that. You know, I grew up in church all my life. I've seen somebody be a great usher. I've seen somebody get up and speak, you know, on a certain subject or do the Psalter. I can do that. But oftentimes we realize there is some training that is involved. There's some practice and repetition. And so not being afraid to offer people who may be leaders in one part of the community but are totally a fish out of water in public speaking or in greeting, and not being afraid as leaders in the church to offer that training. And then we deploy and we equip. After we equip, we deploy. And what happens with ministry, I believe at its best, is ministry that is released. And it is best released through God's people. And as God's people go forth in ministry, lives are radically changed. And we all add value to the kingdom, and we're blessed.
Well, thank you. I've been blessed by our time
you.
today. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Reverend Brown, and
It's been a joy.
appreciate this time.
Thank you very much.
Okay.